You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Couldn't do an interview at SEC Football Media Days without somebody asking about Harold Perkins. The guy's outstanding. We saw it in his freshman season. Freshman All-America, worthy of all of the honors and accolades he's gotten. But it's interesting because he's moving positions this year. Not exclusively, but it is going to be different. So before the Tigers hit the practice field, I wanted to ask a former great inside linebacker at LSU what Harold Perkins is up against moving positions. Darry Beckwith, two-time All-SEC linebacker, started 34 times, was a national championship, and in 2007 was a team captain. I mean, guys just was an awesome player in the SEC for a long time. He's good friends, great resource. So we welcome Darry back to the show. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure. Hey, let me just start with just functionally Perkins moving positions. When you go from that jack roll to moving inside, how easy or difficult is that?
It's kind of difficult because, think about it, even Harold Perkins in high school, when he did play defense, his main objective was to be the athlete that he is. And they were just rushing the passer off the edge. Same way last year, they used him as an athlete, whether he spied a quarterback, whether he did stunts off the edge, whether he just rushed the passer. Obviously, in the Arkansas game, he basically won the game with his athletic ability, being able to track down the running back. Now, when you're on the line of scrimmage, it's a little bit different because you don't have to read as many keys. Now, with him playing off the ball a little bit more this year, he's going to have to be able to read his keys, especially playing against an RPO offense. He has to be patient on when to attack, when not to attack. He would have to be able to read the triangle, what we call the guard, tackle, and the running back. So it would be a little bit different, but I don't think it's going to be too difficult for a player like Harold Perkins. I think he will be able to catch on fast. I mean, you talked about the kid's accolades on the field, but he's also an academic All-SEC performer as well. So for him learning the defense and catching on, it's not going to be a problem. And when you called me today, I actually went and watched some film on Harold Perkins. And when I saw a few highlight films of him playing inside linebacker this past season, I kind of thought, look, man, I don't think the kid's going to have an issue at all. I think it may be just a slight growing pain, but I think he's going to be phenomenal playing the inside linebacker position, and his body type and his body frame fit today's inside linebacker.
What do you think will be the most difficult part of that adjustment?
Pass coverage. Obviously, dropping in pass coverage, knowing zone read concepts, especially if Matt House does love to play a lot of zone. So he's going to have to get adjusted to having wide receivers cross his face, running backs coming out the backfield, playing that jack position. He really didn't have to drop in coverage as much. He wasn't asked to do as much. He was either rushing the passer or spying the quarterback. But now being able to drop in coverage, I think that will be the biggest adjustment his pass coverage skills. Now, as far as him reading the run, attacking and tackling in the open field, that's not going to be a problem because that to him is just like riding a bicycle.
Yeah. So last year we saw Harold Perkins do kind of what you described, right? Just go on the edge and be athletic. Now, and Brian Kelly's even said, Darry, he's still going to do some of that, right? Like he's still going to be in that jack spot at times, but he's also going to play on the inside. So is it easy in the middle of a game to just move around like that, to play inside and then to go play that jack spot?
Absolutely, because they're going to do it situationally. So, for instance, if it's third and long, they probably will move into that jack linebacker position and say, look, go rush the passer, or third and long, he can be able to spot the quarterback. I think the great thing about this group, this linebacker group, they have great rotational pieces this year. Obviously, you have Greg Pence that's still available, then the transfer from Oregon State, Omar Speech. So they will be able to get him in that jack position in the middle of the series, especially if it's third and long. And a player and an athlete like Harold Perkins is not going to be difficult for him at all. Reminds me of a guy that I played with, different positions, the same athletic ability, is Chad Jones. When he was a freshman, they put Chad in situations where he had to maybe blitz off the edge in the middle of a series, or he had to, guard the back out the backfield, and he was able to adjust. So this situation for Harold Perkins to adjust in the middle of a series from moving position is not going to be difficult for him at all.
Former LSU All-SEC linebacker Darry Beckwith is with us, 2007 national champ. Guy was a Butkus finalist. Great guy to talk about. If we're talking about linebackers here. Kind of talking about Harold Perkins moving positions to the inside. So, what about having a guy like Omar Speights, who's going into his fifth year, his fourth as a starter in college football? What does it look like with those two guys on the field at the same time?
I think it's going to look really great. You're talking about a guy like Omar Speights, who has over 300 tackles in his college career. Anytime that a linebacker is that active, has that many tackles, I don't care what league he comes from, whether he played in a Division II or Division I, it doesn't matter. So you one thing you know about him, he has a nose for the football. So he's going to be one that I think is going to probably make a lot of the calls, get the defense lined up because of his experience. With Harold Perkins moving off the ball, you don't want to have Harold Perkins in position to make a lot of calls and get people lined up. Not saying that he can do it, but you have a guy like Omar who has that experience, 4 years of experience of playing the inside linebacker position, making calls and getting people in position. So I think he's going to be a little more vocal, getting guys lined up. And I think that they're going to have a great 1-2 tandem in the SEC and also in the country.
Darry, do you think LSU's got enough bodies there with Perkins playing inside for the first time? Speights is obviously great. But then you've got guys like West Weeks and Greg Penn, who played a good bit sort of in a rotational role last year. Like, do you think they've got enough there at linebacker?
I do think they have enough. Look, I know the game has changed, and a lot of times they do rotate players because of these hurry-up offenses. But if you can, I believe they can still go too deep at the inside linebacker position, and that's what you want. You want to be able to go too deep. If you have Omar Speights, you have Harold Perkins, then you have Greg Penn and West Weeks backing them up. You want to be able to have too deep. Now, I think they do have that. And look out for a kid, Whit Weeks, which is West Weeks' younger brother. Obviously, he's going to be a freshman this year. Kind of has that same frame of Harold Perkins coming in, a 4'4" guy, played running back in high school. Look for him to kind of play a similar role on what Harold Perkins did last year, because a guy that athletic you cannot keep off the field. So I look for Whit Weeks to have some type of impact on this defense this year as well.
Yeah, man, they like Whit Weeks a lot. He's going to be a really good player in time. I'm going to be very interested to see if he carves out a role in this defense. And then I wanted to ask also about Matt House, who, is the linebackers coach, right? So he's the DC, but also the linebackers coach. When you watch him, when you watch his defenses, and particularly how multiple they are at times, Darry, and creative in the front seven, what stands out?
I think his ability to adjust from game to game. Obviously, he never goes in with the same game plan. Obviously, he may have the same front. But I can remember them playing against Alabama. I thought that was the best defensive game that he's called all year. He did a lot of slants, a lot of stunts with the D linemen to get Bryce Young kind of rattled and get him out of pocket as well. And his ability to use players in their skill sets. Obviously, they finally realized, probably after the Tennessee game, we need to have Harold Perkins on the field. So
right.
when they realized that, I think the defense kind of took off. And I think people have to realize, too, this is an adjustment for Matt House. This is an adjustment for Mike Denbrock and Brian Kelly. They have never been around this much talent. Obviously, Matt House playing in Kansas City, you can say the NFL, cool. But as far as college football, they have not been around this much talent. And so when you're around this much talent, it can be overwhelming because you're not used to dealing with it. And so I think this first year was a huge success. Way above anybody's expectations. So I think coming into year two, everyone's kind of settled down. They realize the athletes that they have, and I think Matt House is going to take that next step and be even more multiple and creative on defense this year.
Darry Beckwith is with us. One more about Perkins, and I think this is so many people are looking at Harold Perkins and assuming he has the great year last year, the double-digit tackles for loss, the 8.5 sacks, and they look and go, okay, well, all those numbers are just going to multiply this year. Well, with him moving and playing more inside, is it realistic, Darry, to think that we're going to see those tackles for loss, those sack numbers grow with him playing primarily a different position?
No, it's not realistic because now you're asking him to play off the ball. So if he's going to be blitzing, he's going to be up the middle. A lot of times when you blitz up the middle as an inside linebacker, you got to take on a lot more blockers. You're not as free. So he's not going to have the type of sacks that he had last year, specifically if they are playing him more inside linebacker position. But even with that, I don't want the LSU fans to get into a mindset and say, where's Harold Perkins? Why is he not getting enough sacks? Why is he not pressuring the quarterback? The guy's going to be a great inside linebacker. Even if his sacks goes down, he's still going to make an impact on the field, running sideline to sideline, being able to cover running backs out the backfield. And also, the ability as an inside linebacker to be able to blitz up the middle is a strong suit. And that's something Harold Perkins can do. So if he's able to blitz up the middle, cause pressures, get the quarterback rattled, get him out the pocket, and let someone else make the sack, it's going to be a win-win situation. So if fans don't see 8 sacks or 5 forced fumbles, and they do not say, where's Harold Perkins? That's one thing I think LSU fans get in the mindset when a kid has a great freshman or sophomore year, they expect the same stats the following year. But you got to realize they are in the SEC. Teams know they're coming back, so you have smart offensive coordinators who are going to scheme accordingly to make sure that they don't wreck their game plan. I remember Grant Delpit, as a sophomore, had outstanding years statistically as a sophomore. His junior year, people were like, man, what is going on with Grant Delpit? What is happening? Grant Delpit played outstanding football his junior year, and I think it was a Thorpe Award winner.
Yeah, he was.
Just because statistically it wasn't there the year before doesn't mean they don't have a great impact.
Yeah. By the way, Devin White in his career had 8.5 sacks. He's a pretty good player. Yeah.
Absolutely. Probably the best to do it.
All right, so then let me ask. I lied. Last one then. So the argument can be made: rushing the passer is as important as anything in the modern day of football. When you have someone that's so elite at it, like Harold Perkins, is it worth moving him out of that role to play him inside, or is he more valuable playing that jack spot?
Now, everything I just said about him being able to play linebacker and the adjustments that he's going to be able to make, and I think he's going to be extremely successful playing inside linebacker. Personally, Matt, I think he's more valuable at the jack linebacker position.
Wow. Okay.
The reason I say that is because obviously, if you look last year, he literally won the Arkansas game. He won the Arkansas game. Look in the NFL, the guys that get paid most on defense are edge rushers and defensive backs, because you got to be able to sack the quarterback. You got to be able to stop the quarterback from throwing the football. So I think he would have a greater impact at the jack linebacker position. Now, not saying that he's not going to be as successful as an inside linebacker, but in my opinion, as a whole defensively, I think he can make a great impact at that jack linebacker position. You look at someone like Tyrann Mathieu, how they used him in the slot. You know, he wasn't your traditional cornerback. They moved Tyrann around. So if they can find some type of way to still move Harold Perkins around and not just be exclusively at the inside linebacker position, I know you mentioned earlier that Brian Kelly's still going to have him rush the passer and do the different things. If they can mix that in, okay, then I still think he can have a great impact. But if the season goes on and you see him not playing that jack linebacker position as much, I think that would be a mistake. So they're going to have a healthy balance of him playing the inside position and the jack linebacker position as well.
He is Darry Beckwith, former Tiger great, also doing great work with the Darry Beckwith Foundation, DarryBeckwithFoundation.org. Real quick, Darry, tell everybody about the foundation.
So Darry Beckwith Foundation helps student athletes in the area, and we give them an identity outside of sports. We help them with different enrichment programs, financial literacy, resume writing. We've given away scholarships, and we also feed local sports programs in the area. And before I move forward about that, Matthew Lofton of Jason's Deli, the manager on Burbank, he actually listened to your show, Matt, and He reached out to me. And Matthew Lofton and Jason's Deli has been tremendous sponsors for our organization. He's probably helped us feed over probably 300 kids in our area. So Matthew Lofton has done an awesome job at Jason's Deli off of Burbank. And right now we currently have a fundraiser going on our social media page at Instagram, Darry Beckwith Foundation, trying to raise $5,000 to continue to give away scholarships, open up savings accounts for our members. So we want to let kids know, look, you can be just as successful without sports.
DarryBeckwithFoundation.org. That's awesome, man. Local businesses, if you want to get involved, man, great opportunity to do so to help kids. DarryBeckwithFoundation.org, DarryBeckwithFoundation.org, and on Instagram as well. Beast, it's always good to talk, man. We'll see you soon.
Matt, sounds good. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.